Welcome to Higher Learning. I am your host, Oz Rashid. This is more than just a podcast. It's a front row seat to how elite leaders build the most iconic of teams. The kind of leaders who spot potential that others overlook, who build cultures people don't want to leave, who set the bar, then raise it. Work and how we work is evolving at a rapid pace like no time in history. Our guests will give you insights on how to stay out in front when it comes to all things talent, leadership, management, artificial intelligence, and developing the skills that actually matter. Whether you're a founder, hiring manager, or just obsessed with building teams the right way, this is your spot. If it's your first time here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, drop a rating, tell a friend who gets it. To our longtime listeners, we appreciate you. Thanks for the continued support. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. We're joined by Andrew Diskin. Andrew has spent more than 15 years leading high-performing recruiting teams across global markets, scaling organizations, entering new international regions, upgrading systems, and building data-driven hiring engines. He's worked inside some of the biggest brands out there: KPMG, Marsh McLennan, Rothschild, BMO, SimilarWeb, and now leads TA for a company that helps more than 5,000 clients solve some of the toughest problems through research, data, and insight. Andrew's not just running a recruiting function, he's shaping the strategy, the systems, and the team that brings world-class talent into a world-class organization. In today's conversation, we got a lot to get to. We're going to talk about his career journey. We're going to talk about what it's really like hiring for a global research powerhouse and why showing up engaged has become one of the biggest principles for his success. This one is packed with insight for anyone who hires, leads, or wants to accelerate their career. Andrew, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Really excited to be here. Thanks, Oz. Appreciate you having me.
Of course, sir. Now do you live in the city, or you commute into the city, or?
I live in Uptown Manhattan and work, born and raised in New York City. So in some ways, never left.
Never left. I love that. All right, listen, we have a lot of people that listen all across the world. They're here in South Florida, they're in Nashville, they're in Dallas, might not know what kind of energy is going on in New York. So just walk us through. What's your favorite part about living and working in the city?
My favorite part about New York and the reason why I haven't gone elsewhere are the options here. I feel like there's just so many things at your disposal, even if you don't have, if you don't even take part in all the options just because there's so much to do. I like having just the options at my fingertips. You want to go out late, you can do that. You want to see a Broadway show, you can do that. You want to try all different kinds of cuisine. Those restaurants are open till 12, 1 o'clock. There's all kinds of markets and things to do and seasonal, non-seasonal. And I just think the options here are kind of endless. Plenty of other places have options. This is just the place that has the options for me, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. We have an office up there in Midtown ourselves, really close to Bryant Park. The energy in the city is something I really love. The focus on work, the happy hour scene, right after work, you can see people getting together and community being built there. I love that. And to your point, the selection and the options in terms of, especially like at a lunch or at a dinner, I want to go to this steakhouse. I want to eat this Indian food. I want to go to this, Greek place. So I love it. I totally agree.
And there's the Bryant Park Market open now for winter. So you can go shopping and try all kinds of good foods. It's great.
I love that. I love it. Now that we put our New York City Chamber of Commerce hats on, we're going to take those off. We're going to talk talent acquisition. So let's start here. We talked about you being the SVP of talent acquisition at one of the world's largest research firms. But how did you first get into recruiting? Was it something you intentionally pursue, or did it kind of fall into it?
Yeah, I would say not something I necessarily targeted, but it was an option. I was part of a business fraternity in school, and there was a semester where I was the recruiting chair. But post-graduation, I kind of was trying to get my footing. I ended up in an L&D internship, if you can believe it, after I graduated in a hotel chain here in the city. And after that, I kind of just applied to a few different places, got a job in campus recruiting at KPMG, and really stuck with it ever since. Expanded my remit throughout the years, and it's just kind of become my career and something that I've been passionate about.
I love that. Yeah, what's interesting is that, I kind of fell into recruiting myself. I saw kind of firsthand what the bad can look like ultimately when I was doing hiring for a Fortune 500 company. And I remember feeling like that was a little bit of a calling, right? Number one, I thought the incentive aspect was pretty great. I thought being able to change individuals' lives, helping them find great career opportunities was a great aspect. But I also felt like It feels like they're like this is an industry that's ripe for disruption, and there's a different approach that can be taken to do things better, faster, smarter, whatever it may be. And that's why I got into it. And I love that you started in kind of business fraternity recruitment, right? And then you moved into campus recruitment, and now you're doing recruitment for a global organization, leading teams and strategy. So awesome to see that kind of career trajectory. You worked at some of the biggest brands out there, KPMG, Marsh McLennan, Rothschild, BMO. We talked about that. And what's it like working there? What would be kind of a great employee value proposition of why they should come there?
Yeah, I'd say a couple things. Well, first off, if you're a market researcher, I mean, we have plenty of other types of roles, but research is the core of what we do. Change can be scary, but I tend to lean into it whenever possible, and because it opens new doors, it allows for you to work on new things, new projects, and so that really kind of intrigued me when the role sort of crossed my desk, if you want to say. And I interviewed with several leaders, including my manager, who's been at the organization for about 10 years now, and other leaders who have actually moved up in their roles since I've joined. And they said now is a good time if you want to help enact change within the organization to join, because this is what we're kind of ripe for and what we're looking forward to. And that's still, I've been here 3.5 years. I think that game is still there, and they're constantly looking at ways to make improvements. But also, we're very much known for culture and just having a solid group of people that work here. We tend to have quite a few boomerang employees who, were here for some time, they've left, pursued other opportunities, and then have interest in coming back. And I think that speaks to not just the clients that we have, the work and projects that people can participate in here, but also the people that they work with, and people know that it's something that we're highly rated on, I'd say, both internally and often externally recognized for.
I love that. Is there something that surprised you that you didn't know in the interview process that maybe you were pleasantly surprised to find out after working there for 6 months? What kind of stands out to you from that perspective?
What's funny about that is my manager was pretty honest about, here's the lay of the land, here's what we need you to do, and here's what you can expect. So I would say, funny enough, I don't know that there were that many surprises because I had a pretty honest interview process, which you don't always get all the time, right? Wherever you go. So I would say not too many things that surprised me, but I think if I had to pick one thing, what was surprising was the level of impact that not just me personally, but me and my team, and HR as a whole, the impact that we've been able to make in the time that I've been here in more ways than one, not just with tangible things like technology or processes, but also some of the relationships that our team has built. We have a great HR team all around, and I think the impact that we make day to day, year after year, has just been incredible in supporting the organization's goals.
I love that. And it sounds like you went right from school right into kind of like the boiler pot, like of KPMG. Like that is one of the biggest, most global organizations that we have out there. There's so much great talent at that organization. Um, and I'm interested to learn about a little bit about your journey here, but the importance of showing up engaged at work. And really, I mean, there's a big swath of the workforce that's entering right now that's grown up with tech everywhere. We hear all the things about how socially that can kind of cripple you in some ways, and going out and like going, making relationships and developing relationships. We all know how important that is, but it seems like we're getting further and further away from that as time goes on, especially with the pandemic and a lot of people that went to school during the pandemic. What does it mean to you when I say showing up engaged? And again, can you stress to us why you think it's important?
Yeah, for me, showing up engaged means a few different things. Coming to your role curious, ready to ask questions, developing an understanding for how things operate, how they function, because that will allow you to navigate not just your role, but the organization and ultimately how to get things done. Engaging means developing solid relationships with people in various parts of the organization. Working in the HR my whole career, we often are in the middle of this web, right? And liaising with clients, with support functions, with you name it. And you have to figure out how to get things done. And one way to do that is to engage with people, learn what they do, ask questions. How are things getting done? And then, aside from your day-to-day responsibilities, what you really want to be able to do, and what being engaged allows you to do, is to think ahead more and more. What's next? What's possible? What's maybe not possible. And ultimately, that makes you a better advisor, a better partner, and not just I would say, a doer, but someone who is increases their own personal brand and personal value within the organization. So coming in engaged is much more important than heads down, doing your work every day, which is great. Companies need people to do that, but what really makes people stand out, I think, is ensuring that they are kind of going one, two, three steps beyond just getting their day to day done.
Yeah, I love that you said that. We had an employee start a few weeks ago that came into a very important role for us, kind of a newer role for us that we're really counting on. And this individual relocated for the role, came into our office right away, was immediately participating, was immediately taking part of our recognition programs that we do on Monday mornings in front of the entire company. We talked about how the values are something that we want people to memorize and that are important. He created an anagram of the values so he would remember them. He's reaching out to people to see, to learn and ask questions, taking diligent notes. Already built some strong relationships in the firm. This guy's been here 3 weeks, and I don't know what it's going to look like down the road. Who knows? But certainly, this person's come in and been engaged. This makes you want to give the person the benefit of the doubt. This is somebody that's setting a great first impression. And so if I had to bet on it, I'd say it's probably going to turn out pretty great. And I just think it's such an important thing. Yes, of course, you're coming in to do a job. Yes, so, you don't initially want to make waves, or you might want to listen more than you do initially. I think that's all fine. But showing your excitement, yeah, using we and us right off the bat, figuring out ways that you can get wins on your belt and build deep relationships, or at least relationships, and kick them off at the beginning, I think is so important. And I just think it sets you up for success down the line if you take that mentality. So couldn't agree with you more. I think it's really, really important, especially in today's day and age. Is that something that you always knew? Like, did you always go in and you did that kind of mentality, or is that something that you had to learn?
I think a little bit of both. I've always been someone who was a hard worker and always tried my best at work, but getting into corporate world is much different than having hourly jobs in your teens, right? And so having to navigate complex organizations takes a bit of learning, but also understanding some nuances, where you can push some boundaries, where you can't, how to really ensure that you're developing those relationships with people throughout the organization, as I just mentioned. And so, I'm always kind of naturally curious about things, particularly when it comes to systems and processes. And I'm uh, naturally sort of ask a lot of questions. But I think I definitely had to pick up on this is how things work. And in order to enact change, or even just to do well in my own role, I had to make sure that I understood what was going on around me. And that to me meant engagement, right? Making sure that I'm actively participating in whatever way that means to me. But making sure that I knew the lay of the land. And again, I think that made me throughout my career a better advisor, as opposed to just someone who, was screening resumes all day.
Love that. And that's how you stand out and excel, particularly in our industry. So really, really good advice. So you work with a really large, diverse hiring team. I mean, there's got to be so many different types of people who've been doing it for 30 years, people that are relatively new, people that came from overseas, marketing, finance, whatever. So there's a lot going on there. Are there kind of best practices like coaching or tips you might give somebody on how to prepare to conduct a great interview? I'm a nerd about this stuff, so like I love to talk about it, but I'm interested in what advice you would give a manager who's relatively new, or somebody that's looking for advice on what can they do to best conduct a great interview that gives a great experience, but also helps you drive insight to help you make good decisions.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. This actually just came up in another meeting I had yesterday. One thing that I think everyone has to be conscious of is candidate experience. And it's sort of the age old, treat others the way you want to be treated. And we're not looking at candidates as just a name on a paper or a number on a sheet. It's really ensuring that they have a good experience when they're meeting with you. And I always coach hiring managers that you want them to you want candidates to walk away with a great experience, even if they're not right for the job. You never know who that person is going to be at some point in the future, a future colleague, a manager, a vendor, a client. Often, no matter what industry you're in, They can be very large, but also very small in a lot of ways. And you want to make sure that someone walks away with a good experience. And that means preparing the questions that you want to ask them, ensuring that they are that you're not inviting bias, and that's it's kind of a for someone in the recruiting world, that's kind of a basic idea, but it actually the impact of ensuring that you're asking the right questions related to the job and not to uh, anything that's really going to that is illegal, but also unethical, and also anything that's just going to make someone uncomfortable. You're really trying to assess their skills and their fit within that particular role and within your team and what your needs are for the job. And by doing that, you can ensure that it's not only a safe environment for the candidate, but it's also a good experience. And you also want to make sure that you're following up with people appropriately, right? Full scope of the candidate experience, I think, is really the basic answer to ensuring that you are providing them with a good time. You want them to want to work there, even if they don't get the job.
Love that. And I'm actually, I'm always thinking about like, what are some things I'm thinking about for a post or something that I can talk about. And one of the things I was actually just thinking about was, um, we've actually had multiple decade-long employees at our company that initially turned down the offer, had a great interview process, turned down the offer, then came back, 6 months later, 8 months later, whatever it may be. And now they've been with our company for a decade plus. Part of that is creating a great candidate experience in the interview process. Part of it is really, you take it personal sometimes when your offer gets turned down and you can be like burn the bridges type situation. And we bit our tongue in those situations and it's paid off for our company, which I don't think everybody always does. So that's something that I'd point out. And I love your advice. Here's what I would add to it. And I'm just going to start really simple and really small. Okay. Show up on time, show up prepared, right? Like know what you want to talk about, like you said, and structured, right? And make sure that you're actively listening and you're engaged in the conversation, showing up engaged, right? Whether you want to hire this person or not, whether this person turns you off for whatever reason, they're not a great fit. Creating a great candidate experience is one of those compounding interest things that, especially if your company's big, it creates a great swell of support for who your organization is and wanting people to come there. And like we said, you never want to close that door because who knows what comes up down the road where that person might be end up something that comes to work with you again.
For sure, and the ripple effect of someone having a negative experience, let me tell you, it can be huge in some cases because obviously, like any restaurant or any experience, you have someone writes a negative review, people are going to focus on that much more than they will the positive. And so those negative experiences that candidates have go a long way, but the positive ones do as well. We recently had a candidate a couple months back who our team really, really liked. We were moving forward in the process, and she ended up taking another offer. A weekend, realized culture wasn't quite right for her, and re-engaged us. And the team, went through the final rounds, and she ended up coming on board. And so, the culture makes a big difference, but also the experience, right? She probably wouldn't have re-engaged us had she had a really bad interview experience up until that point. And so it's just really important to put your best foot forward when you're meeting with people.
I look at it as one of the most under talked about forms of marketing, particularly for big organizations or small businesses in small communities. Um, when they have a bad experience with you, whether it's because they thought somebody was rude, showed up late, didn't give them feedback, ghosted them, whatever it may be, right? One, they're less likely to ever want to work there. Two, they're less likely to ever recommend it to a friend to work there. Three, they might not even get your products and services because of it. So like if you interview and talk to enough people, then that becomes a wide swath of people that start to have a bad reputation about your company. So I think companies should think about that and really focus on creating great candidate experience. We're already talking hiring, so let's move right into it. I want to hear from you. You've built some teams. You worked at some big companies. Do you have a core hiring philosophy in terms of when you bring somebody onto your team, what you're looking for?
Yeah, great question. For me, it's part of it is, do they have a client mindset? And, so much of what we do, as I've mentioned, is supporting other people, but also interacting with candidates. And so understanding how to put forward that white glove kind of experience in a lot of ways is really important to being a successful recruiter. I think that's true whether you're internal, which I've been my whole career, but also, a recruiter on the agency side who is developing relationships with clients. And so just being able to, um, you know, speak the language, understand your client's needs is super important, and something that I look for in everyone that I hire. Organization skills, really important. Recruiters juggle so many things. at any given time. Being organized is really important. But I would say probably the third and the most important is just nice people. They work their butts off really to get the best talent in that they can, and support the business. And at the end of the day, when there's a really long day, a long week, we have a great time as a team, and we also enjoy the people that we work with outside of our talent acquisition team. And so, shout out to my team. They're really a great group of people, and want to make sure that
I love that. What a
we're
great
hiring
leader.
nice
Giving
people.
I hope they listen to this. I hope they hear you give them a shout out. And yeah,
Yeah,
one of the underrated aspects of this is like just somebody that, you could ride in a car with for a few hours, or you'd want to get a beer with after work, whatever analogy you want to use. People that not only do you respect, not only that work hard and they're good at what they do, but also people that, you like being around. It makes it easier to come to work. It creates a better environment. And to your point about culture, it's really huge. What about a memorable interview? Like, is there one that you have in mind? Like either you were interviewing or you were interviewing somebody else? Anything that comes to mind when I ask that?
yeah. I was recruiting for another team, as I've always done. So it wasn't necessarily for my team, and I can give an answer for both scenarios actually. But I was hiring for this, or I should say, I was recruiting for this really hard to fill role, and I ended up coming across an application, and I was like, God, the resume is not screaming what we need, but everything this one's done has just everything that goes into it is what we need. And she blew me away in the interview. She was just professional, nice. She walked me through her background exactly what I was looking for. Everything kind of went really right. And then I presented her to the hiring manager, and they were like, "Well, but the resume doesn't look like exactly what we need." And I'm like, "Here's the breakdown. Let me give you some additional notes, right? And I need you to do me a favor. Just meet with this person." I'm being a little vague here to just not to tell a long story, but the short of it is they ended up loving her. It was a 1-year project, ended up extending her, I think, at least another 6 months, and it was for an important tech client at the time. And she's like, "This couldn't have worked out more perfectly." And I was like, "You see, sometimes we just have to meet people, and understand that sometimes what's on paper is not always exactly everything that they bring to the table." And it ended up working out really well. She that I always remember that interview. But for me, from my team, I remember someone brought their prior work to me. I won't go into detail, but they basically showed me on paper how they stay organized, what keeps them efficient day to day. And immediately I was like, great, this person knows exactly how the game is played. They know exactly what they need to do, to keep themselves organized, but also to support their clients. And it was just screaming, right? How they knew exactly what needed to be done. And when people present themselves in that way, and they almost answer the question before I ask it, is just gold.
I love that. And one of the going back to your previous story, like one of the nirvanas for a recruiter is when the resume doesn't scream it, but you know it when you feel it in your gut and you articulate it and you get the hiring manager like, because they have precious time, right? They don't want to waste time
Yeah,
with the wrong candidates. And that's not somebody that they would have obviously talked to, but then they talk to them, they're like, oh, I love this person. And then all of a
yeah,
sudden you've got so much more credibility in the future when you come back to them and you say, just look outside the box here. Because the resume is only 10% of the story, just like the job description is only 10% of the story. The person behind that, their story, their journey, what matters to them, what motivates them is ultimately what comprises a lot of it. And to your point, sometimes it's about, taking a chance on the right person and knowing what really matters, even if it's not articulated in the job description. And you
yeah,
just build so much credibility that we've been very lucky at our company to build relationships with different customers where, hey, listen, you got to trust us on this one. We know what we're talking about here. And you better get it right though, because if you get it wrong, then you're
yeah,
a lot harder time in the future too. That's the double side
for
of that
sure.
coin.
And sometimes you got to look past the resume a little bit, right? There's more to people than just a few lines on paper.
100%. What about a favorite question that you like to ask? Is there anything that you like to ask that you think unlocks a lot out of a potential interview?
It's funny. It's really basic, and I'm sure just about every recruiter, most recruiters do ask this, but I think it's an important one for a couple reasons. I always start by asking people to walk me through their background, and the reason why I do that is because I've had some people whose response is, "Well, what do you want to know?" And I've had other people who come prepared, and they give me the synopsis of who they are, the short story. They give me, the high level, and then I can dig in a bit more. But I think if you're not prepared to speak about yourself, that is going to be kind of a knock on how you might interact with clients. If you're interviewing for a sales role, are you going to be adaptable? Like, can you think of things on the fly? And by the way, if you're talking about yourself, hopefully you don't have to make anything up on the fly. You should know that, but you should definitely come prepared with your short story. And so, if you are actively interviewing, make sure you're prepared with those 3, 4, 5 lines of who it is that you are at a high level, and then someone's probably going to ask you deeper questions. I've definitely had interviews where just asking that right off the bat, it didn't quite go well. And knowing the people that I'm supporting and that I'm hiring for, I it's probably not going to work out well
That
for
would seem
them.
to be a question that you shouldn't get stumped for. You should be at least prepared for that one. That's probably the most common interview question there is, but it's a really enlightening one because
It
how
is,
you
yeah.
articulate what's important to you, why you've made the decisions you've made, why you like how you entered where you have from a career perspective, that really matters. And to your point, especially if you're going to be client facing, it's hugely important to be able to talk about why you're credible and why you're somebody worth being paid $200, $250 an hour, whatever it may be on site with a client. I think that's a really, really key aspect. I love that.
And you'd be surprised how many candidates are not prepared to
I
talk
just
about
think sometimes people
themselves.
are like goes back to that kind of that showing up engaged thing. Like I think sometimes like we've lost a little bit of that ability to kind of tell the elevator story of you and what
Yeah.
matters to you. So yeah, I think you're spot on, and I think it can tell you a lot about if someone's going to be a good fit or not. What about when it comes to hiring for potential versus pedigree, right? Does it depend on the role? Do you have kind of a different philosophy in terms of your team? Like, how do you balance those two things, right? Been there, done that versus, maybe could be even better than we hope down the road.
Yeah, that's a great question. I try to encourage hiring teams to look at more so someone's potential as opposed to them checking every box. Now, that's sort of a blanket statement. Every role, every team is going to require something different. But usually, I would say that 70% prepared is better than 100% on paper. Not all the time. And someone said that at a conference that I recently attended a couple months back, and it's just been sticking with me the last few months. Because so often we are hiring and we need someone to hit the ground running, and they have to be able to plug and play, and we have deliverables, and that is all understandable. But I think we also have to understand, okay, if this person maybe doesn't have 5 out of 5 things, but they have 3 or 4 out of 5, and they've shown in other ways that they have the potential to learn, and that they are eager to learn and eager to do a great job, and that they've done other things that are similar in nature to what you're looking for. um, Not only will they be hungry, I think in most cases, hungry to learn and be successful and be the best they can be, but sometimes you even get more longevity out of those people because they have, again, more to learn. And so for people who've kind of been there, done that, um, you know, I've seen them not last that long. It's not to say that someone super experienced in a particular role is not the right fit. That's not at all what I'm saying. But even someone who is experienced in their career has more to learn. And so if they don't come to the table with every single piece that you need, but they have X, Y, and Z, that will lend itself to being a good employee, give them a shot. Is 9 times out of 10 is what I will coach hiring teams is. It doesn't matter if they're a junior level employee, mid level, senior level. I think the potential of having someone coming in can uh, outweigh bringing someone in who really is just got everything you need. They're perfect on paper. And I think hiring teams just kind of need to weigh that in every instance.
Yep. I love that. Perfect on paper might not mean that there's any more upside there. And roles change, companies change, things evolve, and you need people that have, it's more than just about what they've done in the past, what they can do in the future. So I think that's a really, really great way to look at it. Last hiring question. In terms of when you've had a really good interview that you miss, because we all miss sometimes, right? Is there like a theme on something that you've had to learn over time or something that you're still kind of working on? If you have like a common reason why things, when you've made a bad decision on a hiring candidate, is there anything that comes up to mind?
Yeah, I think hindsight is always 20/20, right? And so it's kind of a tough spot to be in. But I think sometimes in the moment when you're making these hiring decisions, you have to really be diligent in understanding of what your needs are, and also understand that sometimes waiting for the right person will be kind of the better route for you to take. as opposed to just getting the hire in. And so to make that a bit clearer, sometimes we're so eager, we're short staffed or we need to fill that role, and we really need to get someone in quickly. But the cost of making the wrong hire is exponentially worse than waiting around for the right hire sometimes. And so I'm sure you're no stranger to this, and anyone recruiting understands that there's all these kinds of metrics that you can calculate, cost of hiring and training, et cetera. And when you get it wrong, that cost only goes up, right? And so sometimes speed or getting someone in quickly is not always the right answer. And it might just mean you have to wait for the right talent to come along.
Yeah, I'll take that even a step further. And I think it's a great call because what happens is as you feel a deadline or pressure or people are being pressed from a bandwidth perspective, like you start to look at things through rose colored glasses maybe, and then you make a hire. And here's what I would advise everybody. There is absolutely a bottom line cost tied to the idea of how long a role is open that I promise you that it quadruples if you hire the wrong person and bring them on staff and then you got to remove them at a certain point, going back to market, retraining, dealing with all the toxicity or poor fit for however long that person is there is way more expensive than going a week or two longer because you wanted to make sure you got it right. So I always tell people that, I only want to hire hell yes. I want to hire people that like, yep, we got it. This makes sense. We're aligned. This is the person. This is going to go great. Those ones always seem to work out. It's the ones where we start having to rationalize. It's like, well, they could do the job or, maybe didn't have consensus. And sometimes when you run into issues there. So I think it's a great call out on your part.
Finding the right talent for your team doesn't have to be a struggle. Meet Aon Hire, the world's first hiring experience management platform designed to transform the way you hire. Powered by AI, Aon Hire takes the hassle out of every step in the process. From smart resume analysis to customized interview questions, it saves you time, money, and effort. Plus, with real-time insights from every interview, you can quickly identify top candidates, reduce turnover, and stay on budget. And forget about note-taking, Aon Hire takes care of that for you. Ready to revolutionize your hiring process? Visit aonhire.com and get started today.
Okay, let's talk about AI because it's obviously something that's making a big impact in really everything anybody does, but particularly in the talent acquisition and the HR space, AI is a big topic of conversation, using it, when to not use it. I'm interested. Are you leveraging AI any way, maybe in your personal life or maybe at work?
A little bit of both, actually, but I'll actually say more so at work than my personal life. And I've been trying to train my brain to make it understand that, hey, AI is actually probably a first stop for a lot of things and not like the second or third thought that enters my brain, because there are so many ways that it can help. I will ask it to help me do research. AI is actually something that we're leveraging quite heavily. We're about to implement an AI note-taking tool for my team. So we're about to implement an AI note-taking tool, and essentially it's going to accompany my recruiters on their interviews and help them optimize the way that they work. So it's just going to take those notes for them so that they can focus on the candidate experience, as we talked about earlier, and save time. It takes recruiters 5-10 minutes to compile the notes from their interview after every interview they conduct, and they're speaking to 4, 5, 8 people in a day. That's a lot of time savings that they could allocate elsewhere. Nothing for us to do other than have it listen in, right? And so making sure that we're leveraging the technology out there is super important. And I think AI is going to be, there's a lot of things that have yet to be seen with AI. I think people are making a lot of assumptions. But the one thing I think is safe to say is it's going to help optimize the way that we all work, and no matter what profession that you're in. It's just a matter of, okay, there's so many companies out there right now, and which ones are the good ones? And I think, slowly but surely we'll see a few key players standing out. And I think if you're not leveraging AI, or at least not trying to leverage AI, you'll end up lagging behind, I think, for sure.
Love that. I love that you're leveraging AI. I love that you're making lives easier for your team. And I love Ipsos Factos. That's the most amazing name for an internal AI tool I've heard so far. Absolutely love that. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So, Andrew, I want to get to know you a little bit deeper. I want to understand, is there any product you're using right now that has just like changed your life or made you happier?
You know what? We'll get a little personal. I love Land's End bed sheets. They're like silk. I was going down a rabbit hole trying to figure out, okay, I don't like my bed sheets. They're not as comfortable as I'd like them to be. Got on Reddit and, ended up trying them out. They're great. I just bought another set. They were on sale for Cyber
There you go.
and it helps me have a good night's rest. Game changer. I have such a boring life that this is what I get excited about.
We spend hopefully 8 to 9 hours a night in our beds, right? Getting the right mattress. I just bought a really comfortable eye mask that I went from kind of tossing and turning at night to just being out until I wake up in the morning. So I totally am with you. Getting the right sheets, getting the right mattress. Oh yeah. Cooled, everything. They're cooled. They're comfortable. I never even think that they're on. And actually, quite frankly, I never realized how much light creeping in through my eyelids, was actually kind of keeping me awake. So love that. Love the advice. Land's End, Silk, in terms of bed sheets. You got to check those out. Unfortunately, it's not Cyber Monday anymore once this comes out.
The sale might be over. So good luck.
Just use the code Andrew Diskin on the website. You should be good. No, I'm kidding. All right, last one, Andrew. What is some advice that you'd give 20-year-old Andrew that you didn't know then, but that you know now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say take calculated risks. And I think that's important for anyone in career-wise and in life, right? I think if you do too much sitting on the sidelines and don't take too much enough initiative, and no one's going to be as much of an advocate for you as you will for yourself, and in most cases anyway. And so take calculated risks, and understand that you have the power to take things in your hands and make them better in your life and in your career. I think it's just important to advocate for yourself.
I love that. I think especially early in your career, taking those calculated risks is really important as obviously hopefully as you grow older, there's more on the line, family, kids, like mortgages and all these different things, but especially early in your career, figuring out what's important, taking the right risks, taking something that might leap you forward or open a really big door for you. I think is such great advice. And I think the people that I've seen that are ultimately very successful as they get into their 30s, 40s, 50s are ones that did that in their career, but also have done that later in their career too. It just seems like, risk favors the bold, right? And so it's a situation where fortune favors the bold, I guess is the right way to say it. So love that. I think that's really great advice. We do have a lightning round. Are you ready?
Yeah, I hope so.
Let's do it. All right, we're gonna do kind of a mix of New York City and Penn State because I want to learn from you. So
Oh boy.
tell me your favorite place to grab lunch in New York City.
There is a restaurant called Boqueria. They have a few different locations, and they are Spanish tapas. Great lunch, brunch, dinner spot.
I went there 2 weeks ago. We went and took our team in the one right outside of Times Square, right on 8th over there, or close to between 8th and 7th up there. Really good food. Great
40th
Spanish
Street,
tapas.
I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. We went there as a team, and they have some really good sangria there. They had some there was this Papa Bravas. Oh, great choice. I love that. What about favorite thing to do in the winter in New York City?
Winter markets. There's some things that come around and you just forget about them in the rest of the year. There's some really good chocolates in Bryant Park that I love to buy every year, chocolates and hot chocolate. So some of the winter markets can be really a lot of fun, and they have a little beer garden there, so you don't have to just go shopping. You can go have it as a meeting place. Have a beer, have a drink. They usually have seasonal cocktails. So the markets are great, but also there's some Christmas themed, if that's your thing, Christmas themed bars or bars that turned into Christmas themed every year. And it's kind of nice to have that holiday atmosphere, even for just one drink, if it's not your thing, and then you can kind of go elsewhere.
Yeah, listen, who's the Scrooge out there that doesn't enjoy a good Christmas season, a good Christmas cocktail?
Yeah, at least for a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, and if anywhere, New York City's got a nice, real good Christmas vibe, whether it be Rockefeller Center and the tree and the ice skating rink and the markets that you're talking about. Totally agree. You talked about your favorite part about living in New York City. What's something that you would change if you could change anything?
It's raining today, and I would really love to be down in Florida right now.
Don't
Not that it doesn't rain there, but you've got warmer weather.
It's 80 degrees and beautiful right now. I have a window right here that I'm out looking on the 15th floor, so I won't show you that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the time of year. Conversely, when it's June, though, and it's raining and we got a hurricane bearing down on us, I want to be up there in that New York summer weather. So,
listen,
grass is always greener.
It's never 100% wherever you are, but for right now, with the chill, I'll take Florida.
Well, you come down to South Florida, you let me know. We'll go out, we'll grab one of those drinks. Won't be quite as festive, right? You went to Penn State. What was your favorite memory about going to Penn State?
Growing up in New York, we didn't have a football team, none of that stuff, and being introduced to the world of like tailgating and football was kind of it was new to me, but it was also kind of a great rush. Like people just had such passion for it's almost not just the sport itself, but the sport of
The
being a
pageantry
fan
around
of
it,
the
the
sport, the
whiteout, we
pageantry.
are Penn State, right? The
Yeah,
everything around.
exactly. And the spirit around, the whole day thing. Now, yeah, you do that with professional sports, but I feel like college sports is just
It's a
like
different level. It's a different
whole
the
other
pageantry
thing.
is different. I haven't been my father-in-law. A lot of my in-laws went to Penn State.
Oh, wow.
My father-in-law's brother was like the mayor of Penn State for many, many years. They have like a pool named after him and all those different things. I've been to Happy Valley quite a few times. I haven't yet gone to a game. He's been trying to get me out there. I want to go to one of the whiteout games. I can't wait to experience that.
Yeah,
I think
whiteouts
it's
are
so amazing.
fun. It's
Awesome.
been a very long time since I've been back there, but the whiteouts were always fun, and there's always good energy.
Yeah. Last question then. Better party school or better football school? Penn State.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like people might get mad at me if I choose one of the
Okay, yeah, we want to say, hey, listen, it's equal on both. We know how to party, we know how to combine. Many
equal.
times we combine both. That's that tailgate situation, there, right?
50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
I
be
have
more
some friends
than
who
just
went
one
there.
thing.
I have
Yeah.
some friends who went there. I know some people that went there. They all had a good time. And of course, football is amazing there. It's an amazing campus. Love it. And I love that it's really nestled kind of in its own area, and the school is like everything that matters in that city. So really cool that you went there, and you should get back out there. Maybe we'll go to a football game together, okay?
Yeah, it sounds great. It was a great experience being there for
All
sure.
right, Andrew. I appreciate you coming on, man. Look, next trip to New York, I hope to get some time with you. If you're down here in South Florida, let me know. We'll grab that
Sounds great.
cocktail. Have a great night, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Oz. Appreciate your time.